Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm the founder and CEO of Dynamic Boards, and today I've got Teresa Manning, MBE, the CEO of Clockwise Credit Union with me, and Jeremy Siddall, a board member who's also a subcommittee chair at Clockwise. So Clockwise are looking for a new chair of their board. We've got all the details listed on the advert on the Dynamic Boards website. It's free to sign up and view the role details. But now it's great to have you here, Teresa, so that people can get to know Clockwise and get to know the organisation. First of all, can you give me a brief overview of Clockwise Credit Union and what makes it so unique in the financial services space?
Clockwise is a cooperative, which means it's member owned, and we've been in existence since 1992. Credit unions came into the country in the late 80s and early 90s. It's a cooperative and it primarily offers savings and loans, but also other financial products and services which we would consider to be ethical. And our focus, I suppose, is improving financial well-being, both for our members and in the community. We cover now Leicestershire, Rutland, Nottinghamshire, and Coventry and Warwickshire. So we've got quite a big area. Credit unions are all defined by something called a common bond, which says where their membership is going to come from. Some credit unions are what would be classed as industrial. So, for example, their membership would be somebody who works for the police service. So we started very, very small as an anti-poverty initiative in some churches in a small part of Leicester City. So we have expanded tremendously over the years. So we're now worth around £15 million and we've got around 30,000 members. So we'd be classed as a sort of medium-sized credit union, but successful.
Brilliant. Thank you, Teresa. And who is at the heart of your work? And are there any sort of member stories that stick with you as powerful examples of your impact?
Well, I've been around since the start, so I know many, many stories. People who shared how much being able to access affordable loans, for example, people who've been turned away from mainstream lenders, even for something as little as £50. We lend between 50 and 15,000, but £50 can matter so much. So people who can access that. I've got a whole load of feedback. We've just done a social impact and we've got lots and lots of feedback about, how people are able to afford school uniforms for the first time, that kind of thing. So an awful lot of ways in which we've made a difference to people's lives. And I guess that's why I love doing it so much, because you do hear so many stories. We do a prize saver account where people can win a prize of up to 5,000. One of our members won, and he was saying he was going to use it because his sister, who was disabled, was moving into her own accommodation. And so he was going to use it to buy furniture for her. It was so lovely.
Wow.
It was such a small thing, it might seem to us, but it's a huge difference to somebody's life.
Yeah, amazing. And it's great that you've managed to capture some of that feedback. And I imagine for your team, that's like a fuel to keep them going day to day.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so you joined the Clockwise team as employee number 7. I've heard you talked about as 007. The organisation has doubled in recent years and merged with 3 other credit unions in that time.
Yeah.
Can you give us a sense of that sort of journey so far and what's next for Clockwise?
For a start, I'm not employee number 7, I'm employee number 1. My account number is number 7, I'm a member. And when we first started, you had to have 21 volunteers who became your first board, your first credit committee, your first loans committee, and we joined alphabetically, so that's how I got to be 7. But I refer to myself as 7. We began in a very, very small way in the back of a church in Highfields in Leicester. Over the years, yes, we have merged with 3. One was New Central Credit Union in Coventry, then Rugby Credit Union, and most recently, at the end of January, Nottingham and Lincolnshire Credit Union. In each of these cases, we would class them as a strategic merger, although in the case of Rugby, I think, had we not, although it was very small, in due course, they probably would have not been able to carry on. What it's brought for us is accelerated growth, definitely. A stronger balance sheet. We're up to 10 million in loans now. It expands the market, so the people that we can attract as members, and it brings staff with new skills and gifts and talents and enthusiasm. So whilst it's challenging, mergers are challenging, cultures and working practices, members, It's been a really successful initiative for us. At the moment, though, we can't merge with any other credit unions, even if they came to us, because we've reached the limit of our common bond, because our regulators say 3 million potential members is as many as you can have. So at the moment, that's where we are. We're just under the 3 million potential.
It sounds like you've got a lot of influence in this space, Teresa. I know you've just been to 10 Downing Street, and we've been hearing that ministers once again want to expand the cooperative sector and the credit union sector. So can you tell us a bit about that? What conversations are taking place about credit unions and their role in financial services in the UK?
I mean, it was a fantastic experience. The government actually announced that what they wanted to do is double the whole mutuals and cooperative sector in 5 years. Mutuals and co-ops include building societies as well as credit unions and all manner of mutuals. I met lots of really interesting people. There's a business group that's been set up to try and look at ways of achieving that doubling the sector. Unfortunately, there wasn't a huge amount of information about how they were going to do that for credit unions, apart from the fact that they've launched a consultation into common bonds and how they might be changed to enhance growth. We'll be watching that space. We do have a seat on that board of mutuals and co-ops through our national association, the Association of British Credit Unions, of which I'm also a director. So the chief executive of ALCO is sitting on that board to try and make sure that we get as fair and appropriate support as possible to help us to grow as a sector.
Brilliant, Teresa. And one thing we haven't touched on is technology. Can you give us a sense of how technology is helping to sort of turbocharge the work that you're doing?
Well, we're very unique. We are the only credit union in the country that actually has developed an in-house solution for technology. So we've got a team of 9 who've effectively built a whole solution, so a core system, CRM, loan decisions, that everything that you need to run a credit union. And we are at the moment looking at ways that we can share that with other credit unions in the sector. That is our aim, really, is that it was never just for Clockwise, it's that we would share it. And we've had a number of credit unions already who've seen demonstrations and are really keen to join us. So we're very excited about that. I'm very proud of it. It's been a real achievement.
Great. And you've seen the impact in the organisation to having that sort of full flow of technology empowering that decision making and the administration of the process, I imagine, as well.
Oh, it's transformed what we've done. I mean, for example, if a member applies for a loan, particularly if they're an existing member, they can apply online, and the quickest turnaround from them hitting the submit button for their loan application through the whole process, credit check, loan decision, and signing the loan agreement and the funds being released is 2 minutes for the whole process.
Wow, that's very impressive. That's like the big bank kind of speed.
Well, yeah, I mean, we are very proud of what we've got, and it is very good. You know, we're extremely fortunate that we've got some very talented people headed up by our Chief Technology Officer, who actually began as a volunteer at the credit union and has worked way up through and virtually covered every single role. So he understands what credit unions need to operate and to grow, to give them that extra capacity. So yeah, it's very exciting and we are looking forward to sharing it.
Thank you, Teresa. That's great to hear. So, Jeremy, let me bring you in. So, Jeremy's an independent board member. Jeremy, can you give me a sense of the role of the chair at Clockwise? I know that's what you're looking for through this campaign.
Thank you, Sarah. Just a word about myself. I am chair of the nominations committee, which I've been for maybe a couple of years. But my experience with Clockwise goes back about 10 years. When as a complaining member, my complaint was resolved. And the then general manager said, we could probably do with somebody like you on the board. But anyway, I went on to what was a supervisory committee then, which was in effect the audit committee. I don't have the experience of Teresa, but I have seen about 9 or 10 years of change and growth and been excited enough to stay with it.
Never heard of that story before, Jeremy, someone complaining and then ending up as a board member. That might well be.
Yeah. Don't complain must be the motto. We want somebody who can keep an eye on the strategic vision of Clockwise, It's very easy to get tied up with the here and now, the day to day. We are ambitious. We want to grow, double our size again. We're looking 5 years out all the time. We need somebody with, as I would say, the basic skills, somebody who can chair meetings, monitor the functions of the basic, our subcommittees and so on, which look after the areas of risk, finance, communications, that type of thing. But I think the thing I would sort of concentrate on more is they need to understand and share our basic ethos. I think the ethos is as a mutual. We're in the mutual sector. We have a very committed staff and board. We've recently, as Teresa mentioned briefly, completed our second social impact report. It's actually called, I believe, a social return on investment. And we find that our activities, for the pounds that we put in, we expend, we get about £16 worth of value back into our local communities. And we are local. When we lend, the interest that we charge stays in our community. It doesn't go off to other parts of the country or worse. And again, as Teresa mentioned briefly, we have now sector leading software, and we're very keen to share that with people. That brings its own challenges, but this is all part of the ethos.
Thank you, Jeremy. So Jeremy, what are you looking for in this new chair?
I've covered the basics, but I think there's maybe two additional things that we would really love a new member, a new chair to bring to the board. The first thing is somebody who can maybe shepherd the board, the organisation in this era of growth and change. We can never stand still. We need to change. The regulators see that we have to, and all that sort of thing. The other thing that we're really looking for is somebody who can get the board functioning as a team, get the best out of the board, because we do recruit new directors. We will need to recruit new directors with some long-standing ones who will be standing down fairly soon. We do need to cover the basic skills in accounting, finance, maybe IT, marketing, that type of thing. But we're also very keen to have people with other backgrounds on our board, with general experience, people who aren't necessarily au fait with how boards work, who might be intimidated by some of the things that go on in boards. So I think we know in business and in sport that a good manager of people can bring a group of disparate individuals together into a brilliant team. And that's what we're really hoping we can find.
Thank you, Jeremy. And Teresa, any final thoughts for anyone considering applying?
As far as the chair's role is concerned, the chair effectively is kind of a conduit between the board and the CEO and the management team. So having a good working relationship is going to be key for me, somebody that I can go to and that can approach me and that we can work together effectively. So I'm just looking for somebody that can bring back to it, as well as all the things that Jeremy mentioned. We've had some very good chairs in the past, and they have made a difference. I have sat on other boards, and a weak chair is not something you want, really isn't. We did have a board effectiveness review a couple of years ago, and that identified as well some of the areas that, one, we could sort of tidy up a little bit, hence some of the work that Jeremy's been doing with the nominations committee, but also to, I think, recognise how well we are functioning. But it's no harm to take a good look at yourself, and we would ask the chair to do that, to have that kind of role as well, like Jeremy says, making sure that you get the most out of all the board members.
Brilliant. And if you're thinking about applying for this role, good luck. All the details are in the advert, so please do check it out via the link below. And if you've got any questions, we've got Teresa's email address there, so you can get in touch. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Jeremy, for giving our candidates such a sense of what Clockwise is all about.